Everybody, we're here. We're joined by Ollie Bain. He's our UI UX designer, and he's part of Vivolution. Excuse the plug, but Vivolution are a boutique consultancy firm based in Scotland, and we have four main services that we provide. The first one is design-led development. The second one is technical development. The third one is commercialization, and the fourth service we offer is an investment strategy. We're here today to talk about our first service, which is design-led development. And the person in our team that leads design-led development is our very own Ollie Bain. So Ollie, it's great to have you on board here. Well, before we get cracked into some of the more technical questions, may I just ask, design-led development, how did you actually end up in this game?
Yeah, wow. To go back a wee bit, so I started out as a graphic designer. And that was in an occupational health environment. So that's kind of building up healthcare campaigns for the likes of Heathrow, BAE Systems, so quite large campaigns. That was a bit of a challenge at the time, actually, being relatively new to design. But I kind of fast-tracked myself into, I say fast-track, I moved over to branding a little bit because the constant ad campaigns and everything involved in it. It was quite intense, but I'd always kind of found branding interesting, so I moved over there. Worked on branding for sort of 3 years, I would say. It was the agency I was at was Little and Often, so it was quite high turnaround for branding, but it was good experience. And then big shift towards digital with web design, to be honest with you. And this is where the kind of UI UX part for me comes in. So with the web design, I found the sort of psychology of design was starting to have an input on how I was designing, in terms of users completing a task or getting to an endpoint. And to be fair, UI UX for me was relatively new thing, so I wasn't fully aware of it. But then this opportunity came up at Vivolution, and the job description matched a lot of my interests and things. I thought, well, I can do that. So I just kind of went for it, to be honest with you. Had to do a little design task and go through my processes and things like that. And that's what's landed me here as a UI UX designer. So that's been about 3.5 years now with Vivolution.
And you've never looked back?
Not once.
Very good. You've mentioned during your statements there the UI UX. So for the benefit of the listeners in here, could you maybe just open up a little bit more about what exactly is UI and UX?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So UI, user interface design, that pretty much focuses on if you're looking at a website or any like Teams, for example, that focuses on the visual elements and the layout of a digital product. So it's things like the buttons, the menus, icons, the sort of overall visual style. And that's also where I include branding. So if a client comes to us and they've not got branding, it's okay. I still design it as I would, and then I kind of look back around to my branding experience and sort of tie it all in that way. So that's the UI, and then the UX, user experience. There's quite a few elements involved in that one, but that's about the overall user journey and the interaction somebody has with the product. I'd say the UX, it sort of encompasses, certainly what we do is the user research, usability testing, the information architecture as well, which our tech team help with, user flows as well. And pretty much it's all to try and make an experience as sort of seamless and satisfying as possible for the users. I found that it's really hard to have one without the other. You can have excellent UI, you can design excellent UI, but if you've not got good UX to go with it, it's almost wasted. And it's the same with the UX. You can have a very, very well thought out and researched pathway, but if you can't appeal to the user with how it looks, you're going to have people start to drop off and maybe not engage with your product so much.
Yeah, I get that. It's got to look good and it's got to feel good. Those two
exactly.
key assets. Yeah, that makes sense. We're here today to talk about design-led development. Now, I put my hand up a couple of years ago. I never knew what design-led development was. I thought development was technical development, but design-led development is different. Can you summarize or can you explain what design-led development actually means?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I feel like I'm on Blue Peter here with one I made earlier, but I've got a little slide that I'm just going to share just because it sort of highlights what we do here at
Excellent.
Vivolution. Yeah, there's my mouse running over the screen. So really what we have here for our design-led development, for us, it's about integrating design principles into the entire product development process. We emphasize user experience and sort of creativity from day one. And for us, we also include sort of elements of lean UX and agile methodologies. We just kind of we mash it together by picking the bits that have worked and continue to work for us. So on this sort of little graphic here, think, make, check. We do this rapidly. You know, we think of an idea, we make it, even in its simplest form. It could be sketching a wireframe on a bit of paper, and we check it. And if it doesn't get past the check, we go back to the start. And for us, we find it's a really smooth process, design-led development, by using this way of working, because we're following all these design principles of creating and checking and being, creative. But because we use our development team as part of the process, they're able to kind of have a very good input on things that may or may not work. And we just don't waste time then on things we shouldn't waste time on.
Sure, makes sense. I like that sort of flow diagram. It makes it look as if it's quite agile. So this process can be sort of being taken in certain sprints. Is that correct? Can you iterate quite quickly?
Absolutely. So that's exactly what we try and do. Generally, when a project starts for us, the sprints don't kick in immediately. For the dev team, I'd say they work on about a 2-week sprint, just because they've got quite a heavy workload for creating the artwork. For me, I'm probably working to, I'd say, no more than a week for my design sprints. And then once there's enough design work, we sort of amalgamate the time.
Okay, well, thank you. So you've described to us the what design-led development is. But most importantly, I would suggest is, and I'm sure the listeners will be, what's the why? Why is design-led development important? What's the big deal?
Well, design-led development, it drives user centricity, innovation, efficiency, collaboration's the big one. I briefly mentioned that, and customer satisfaction. So we're sort of ultimately, all these things contribute to pretty much to the success, or at least the competitiveness of a product, which is why DLD is important, because you want to succeed, and at worst, you want to be competitive with your product. Like I say, we've incorporated bits of lean UX into our workflow because it just enables us to iteration faster. And we can encourage like quick testing and refinement. So kind of because of that rapid fire iteration, the little graphic we had there, we're just like reducing risk. We're allowing for really early validation on an idea or a concept, and it just saves time and money, to be honest.
Sure. And I suppose if you're going to fail, you want to fail fast. You want to get your idea out there quickly. So this process helps you with that. You mentioned before about the user centricity or being user centric. Why is that important in design-led development, the user centricity?
It's the person a product is for, really. It's important because we're kind of trying to ensure user satisfaction and usability. By focusing on our users, we're going to reduce abandonment. We're going to lead to increased engagement. It gives us the opportunity for sort of effective problem solving and getting feedback quickly as well from customers, but also internally as well. Because of it, we just kind of try to increase brand loyalty with something. So if you're launching a new product, we want people to adopt it quickly. And the worst thing would be abandonment, people sort of trying it and then going, actually, this isn't for me, or saying, I don't like it without any real reason. That's why it's important, because we do not want that situation.
Sure. And you mentioned that phrase, reduced abandonment. I've never heard of that phrase before. What exactly does that mean?
It's people dropping off. So people will abandon a product. They'll download an app on their phone, a new one that they might have heard about from a friend or something. They'll try it out, and if they don't like it, the UX of it, like that experience, if it's not something that is designed well for them, then they'll drop off, and you won't have that customer anymore. And they are unlikely to recommend it, or certainly probably won't continue using it. So reduced abandonment is pretty much making sure people keep using your product.
Sounds good. Yep, and obviously
Well,
very
yeah,
important.
it's quite a crucial one.
Yeah, it is quite crucial. Yeah, because if you look at this day and age, there are so many apps and so many digital
This is
products
it.
that
Yeah.
if you make one wrong move or there's one thing that doesn't really sit well with you, you'll just come out of it. You'll just leave it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense. What happens to products or what happens to companies who do not use design-led development?
Well, I suppose it's quite hard to just go, like, to just flick a switch and say we are now using this process, because there's a bit of a learning pathway to it. So I suppose instead of saying don't use it, I would say people who don't try to adopt design-led development. That's kind of how I would go with it. So if you don't try to adopt it and make those efforts, it's pretty much the opposite of all the good stuff we said. So you're going to have reduced user satisfaction. You will have an increased risk with the product. It could be launch dates. It could be success of certain features of your product. And one actually that kind of goes under the radar is, how would we say it, sort of operational or communication inefficiencies between teams. So that's me speaking to the developers we're all speaking with the client, who are speaking to the rest of our team involved in going for funding or grants, things like that. So you're kind of, if you don't follow this pathway, this method, it can have a knock-on effect. I mean, I remember I suggested a feature for an online learning platform that we're currently working on, so that our dev team are working hard on it. I can't spill all about it, but it's an exciting one. But because of our process, the dev team had an early input in this. I just had an idea of a feature. I thought, hey, let's go for it and use this. But because we included everybody in the loop early on to check, it was decided that actually, no, this is quite a complex thing for them to build, even though it seems simple to me as a designer. And we kind of thought with the project manager, Jake, that really for going for an MVP, going for funding, things like that, it really isn't the best use of time for me to design it and for them to develop it. So yeah, the kind of think, make, check was quite clear there. I'd probably say that's, yeah, sorry.
That's fine. And just for clarity for the listeners, MVP, that is?
Minimal viable product.
Great.
There's so many acronyms and things these days.
Yeah. So the MVP, that in essence is your phase one of your product, your initial launch. Just get something out there to get it used and get it tested. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And an MVP can come at all sorts of different stages, or the requirements for it can be I think we sort of have five points in our design process, all of which can be used for an MVP.
Okay, very interesting. I know from my experience of working with several startups, often they can be a bit reluctant to release the MVP early, and they can miss months and even years can go by until they get something out there. Have you any thoughts sort of on how or when you should try to release an MVP? Or is this getting more into Jake's land?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's as soon as we feel comfortable. If we're following our processes the way we do, and we don't kind of deviate from them, I would be comfortable. I mean, we have there's an insurtech platform called Cetera that we've worked on all the way through to a prototype, a design prototype, not a dev prototype, and that's sort of being used as an MVP to get more funding for the next stage with the developers. But we were showing sort of investors early on wireframes, black and white wireframes. So as long as you've got confidence in the product and a bit of trust in our process, you can kind of use any stage of our DLD process. as an MVP, which is quite good if you want to, try and get some funding in quickly.
And again, for the benefit of the listeners, DLD, that's our acronym for design-led development.
Yeah, sorry, design-led development.
So this all sounds good. How do you and/or Vivolution go about implementing design-led development?
Yeah, so actually, here's slide number 2.
Excellent.
I'm glad that I had these. So for us with our design-led development, we have these sort of 5 stages. We have our workshops, which due to COVID, I was able to make some remote workshops, which have been an absolute savior. They're allowing us to have clients all over the UK, all around the world, really, to be honest, who can engage in these discovery and design workshops that are really the sort of first stage in onboarding and for us to learn about a product and a client. It's a bit of a deep dive. It's only 2 days. 1 day discovery, 1 day design, and that starts the process of this kind of collaboration and getting ideas out early. So we start with our workshops. Once we've completed that, I then work on the wireframing, and ultimately we aim to wireframe every sort of happy path in a product, and that assures layout, flow really early on. And I've not really spent much time designing it because, like I say, it's normally sort of black and white, maybe with a wee splash of colour now and again. And once that's sort of all signed off and everybody's kind of happy with it, we'll move on to our low fidelity, which is pretty much a sort of scale of how designed something is. So low fidelity is there are elements of branding coming into the product now, but we're not committing fully to a complete design. Again, we're thinking about the iterations, time. We wanted to make sure there's no mistakes and make sure also that the person who's getting this designed is happy with how it's looking. Like they have to feel confident in the product. And if they are, we go for a high fidelity, which is the final design. And at that point, that's a really good time for going for an MVP. Like if you want to just show something, you can say, we've got it designed, we're ready to go. That's a good one. But then the kind of gold star on top is if we get to prototype it. So we'll prototype it in Figma, is the platform we use for the software for designing. And that gives clients like a really near lifelike experience on their phones or computers with their product. And it's at that point, nothing has been sort of coded by our dev team. So that's sort of like the top of the tree, the star on top of the tree. Go for the prototype, and your MVP will look really shiny and great. Just if you want to, push on for that next round of funding. So this is sort of how we at Vivolution work, and we broke it down to these 5 steps just because they're quite clear and concise.
Yeah, they certainly are, and it looks very good and easy to understand and easy to follow. Well, this sounds good. You've discussed the what is design-led development. You've discussed why design-led development is important, and you've then also shown us here how you implement design-led development. Now, I'm a young company innovator, business leader. I have an idea, and I've got a little bit of money that I want to throw in to making this idea into a reality. Why should I, use design-led development? What are the main benefits? Why should I spend my money?
Yeah, it's a really good point. So I think when it comes down to why should I spend my money, I'll be really sort of clear why you should and follow this process is because first and foremost, user-centered solutions. So all the things we spoke about earlier, reduced abandonment, etc. Continuous innovation is a biggie. We don't get stagnant with what's happening here. We're innovating, we're coming up with ideas, we're testing, trying, making sure that when a product hits launch, we have thought of everything and anything, and we're really, passionate and confident about it. The big one, though, certainly, if you had to maybe convince an investor, for example, I'd say that the efficiency and the reduced risk by following this path is good. It just means that you've thought about it, we've tried it. We don't need to risk wasting time and resources on this anymore because we've gone through the process. And I suppose actually as a shameless plug for Vivolution, we've got our sorry, just throwing this one in in now, Paul, but
Why
we've got
not?
design-led development at the top. But this is how we work with our sort of four sections, four quads, if you like. There's me, top left. We've got our MVP software development. There's the devs. We've got a commercial playbook, and then the investment strategy as well. So the benefits of going with DLD is that it works together with all these components of trying to make a successful product. And we're lucky at Vivolution that we do have the resources all in-house to check each box, and we can, riff off of all of these and everyone's involved. So when something does go to launch, we're pretty confident it's going to succeed.
Sure. And I think taking down the notes on what the benefits are of design-led development. First one, reduced abandonment. The second one, increased innovation. The third one, increase your efficiencies. And the fourth one, reduce risk.
Absolutely, yeah.
So all four of those aspects, very key, particularly if or when you're going out to market, to investment, or to key customers. Okay, this sounds good. Well, look, you've told us all about how super design-led development is, and we do all believe you, Ollie. Can you tell us about a recent client that you've used this with? And
yeah,
maybe
I
how
knew you
that
were going to
played
ask
out?
me to prove it, Paul. I knew you were going to ask me to prove it.
Please.
It's all very well good. My final slide, I'm sure everyone will be glad to know, is actually for a client called Check for Cancer, and they operate in the health tech space. So they are, how long have been working? We've been working with Check for Cancer for a couple of years now, actually, and they've now got a very real goal to develop this sort of revolutionary skin cancer app. So it's for skin cancers, melanomas, and what we want to do is screen skin cancer like at an early stage, just to reduce people's risks and things like that. So ultimately, the idea for Check for Cancer was to reduce the time to get a diagnosis and increase accessibility all across the country for people, and the rate at which you can get feedback from your lesions. We took Check for Cancer through our process that we had a look at, and I'll be honest, actually, we were really blown away by their willingness to engage with us and to trust us to make it a reality, because they were coming to us with an idea that we were all thinking, oh, blimey, this sounds excellent. We're game-changing stuff here. And they, like I say, they just trusted us, and we're very grateful they did. And we took them through multiple rounds of sort of investment with the design, and ultimately it's now led to our dev team building their product to great success, and certainly lots of interest. So by following the process, it now looks like the next steps are going to be to expand this platform from their MVP, and just kind of keep building on the success and the interest. So we've kind of done, I'll be honest, we've done very well with it, and we're super happy with the results. And I think that seeing it progress at the rate it has, it's just sort of confirmed to us that the way we are doing things is working.
Very good. It looks very clean. It looks great, actually, Ollie. It really does. From a UI UX perspective, you can understand why they've been very happy with it. Conscious of time, we've got 3 minutes to go here. I've got one question in from the audience. What's the difference between design-led development and traditional development?
Oh, wow. So I'm not a developer. So for the traditional side, I might need some backing, but I suppose how to answer that? That's a good one, Paul. So design-led development and traditional development, obviously the approaches have quite distinct philosophies, I'll say. DLD tends to prioritize, or it does prioritize, user experience, iteration, collaboration, and innovation from the get-go. So all these things we've mentioned. And it results in products that are more likely to resonate with users and sort of succeed in the market. In a traditional sense, with traditional development, I found that design tends to come after initial planning, and it's sometimes treated as a separate phase, which means that things like your user experience goals, things like that, or the user experience considerations are probably going to get addressed further down the line in a project. And at that point, you can realize, oh dear, actually, we should have thought about this earlier, and then you've got to time resources to make changes that you maybe could have spotted earlier. So I'd say those are the sort of two big differences actually then is basically with design-led development, we're not missing opportunities in the way that traditional development might.
Okay, very good. You got away with that one. Last question, Ollie. If anybody wanted to get in touch with you or the company, how would they do that?
Oh, yeah. So I'd say the two best ways are email Vivolution. So it's hello@vivolution.co.uk. But also on our LinkedIn. The team are quite active on LinkedIn, and any little messages there will pop in or pop up to them really quickly. So I'd say that's probably quite good, a good way of getting in.
Okay, so hello@vivolution.co.uk. I've just put that into the chat for benefit of all the viewers. And
we've also got Paul. Sorry, Paul. Just to say, we've also got. I think we've got space coming up for our concept calls. So these concept calls we've started doing with people who have an idea or they're maybe not sure about where to go with their product. We've got these concept calls where we're hoping people can get in touch. And I think are you up to speed with the concept calls?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I think that could be a really good route to just getting in touch with us and finding out about your product.
And we've got a question here from Pam discussing the costs. Yeah, we can give you an estimate depending on how many stages you wish to apply yourself to. So Pam, we could even give you the likes of a concept call to understand if you want to bring your idea to market and how much that might cost. You know, it's in the early thousands, early tens of thousands. It's not an extraordinary large amount. So we can work with you to create and shape a package that's good for you, Pam.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have any other questions, folks? I'm just conscious that's 1:30. Anybody else have any other questions? If you do and you don't have time or you aren't able